as supporters, blows his whistle. George Moncur steps up and scores! Bottom corner of the net, the goalkeeper was very close, and it's John. He lets in a low cross, and that's been turned in, and Leyton Orient are back on level terms. He'll come to James, he shoots! Oh, and a goal from Tom James! That was a volley, and that was right. It's a low cross, it's an inviting cross, and it's been turned in by Theo Archibald, and he celebrates in front of the travelling faithful.
Games do not come much bigger than this. Welcome to Orient Live. Tonight is a night where dreams may come true, and I'm delighted to be joined in the studio this evening by journalist Andrew Butler and Orient legend Joe Widdowson. As you can tell, the excitement's so high that I'm getting out of breath just thinking about it. Tonight is getting exciting, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I described yesterday like Christmas Eve, and today, albeit it hasn't felt like Christmas Day much, because Christmas days are usually not full of work, and you just want to get the presents open, but there's still 90 minutes of football before we get to that point. But it is, you can't deny it. The excitement's been in the air all of today. Everyone's buzzing, friends and family, colleagues, and must be around East London just be so excited. And whilst we're here and it's a pleasure to be here, there's so many people out in Gillingham right now who are just expecting the best for this evening. I
mean, we'll go on to what needs to happen tonight for whatever needs to happen, but it's a weird one because you've been top of the league for so long. It's been such a great season. You still feel nervous. It's weird.
I'm not nervous. I just want to get to the final whistle, and see the boys rightfully, done what they've earned throughout the course of the season. They've been outstanding, and yeah, it's just we're here now, aren't we? It feels like tonight's going to obviously hopefully be the night that obviously promotion's sealed, and just really looking forward to it.
Well, nothing is confirmed yet, so let's not get ahead of ourselves, and there is still work to be done. Let's stay grounded. So let's take a look at how the O's are lining up this evening. We're unchanged from Saturday's fantastic victory over Sutton, and it's another game on the road tonight and another 90 minutes ahead for these boys in red. And in goal for the O's, after making a club record of clean sheets, is number 22 Lawrence Vigouroux. It's the same old back four. Number 32, Rob Hunt at left back. We have the two in the middle, number 19, Omar Beckles, and 43, Ed Turns. And at right back, fresh after scoring an absolute weldy, is number 2, Tom James. We've got the two in the midfield of the captain, Darren Pratley, number 18, and 15, Idris El Mazouni. On the left, you have number 34, Kieran Sadley. On the right, 7, Paul Smith. And in the number 10 hole is number 14, George Moncur. And playing through the middle, leading the line, is number 10, Ruel Sotirio. And on the bench for the O's is Sam Sargent, Shadrach OG, Craig Clay, Jordan Brown, Aaron Drynan, Charlie Kelman, and Jamie McCart. So there's no real surprises about being unchanged. They were fantastic on Saturday, got the job done, and hopefully the same boys can get the job done tonight.
Yeah, they were brilliant on Saturday, and it's been kind of so typical this season that we talk about just getting over the line and just doing the job in hand today, but that's exactly what they've done every time they've come up against a test. And we talk about Sutton being a great win. Salford on Good Friday was a fantastic win, and that felt like the one that was going to be the biggest test in this run-in. But every time that we've come up against even a team that we think, they could cause us a couple of problems, we've answered those questions and answered them so brilliantly. And Saturday was a phenomenal performance. Shut them out so easily, but also scored 2 absolutely fantastic goals, and it really should have been 4 or 5-0. So with this evening, again, Gillingham will provide a really, really stern test. We will come on to them, but they've been in recent really decent form of late. But every time that we've had a game, Richie's managed to keep them grounded, keep them hungry, and keep them motivated. And I expect more of the same this evening. And
it's an interesting thing because throughout the season, if you've got Saturday, Tuesday, you'd often go, rest him, freshen it up there. But at this stage, when what's on the line really matters, do you think Richie's almost saying, keep that consistency? He knows. So he can trust his squad, but he's put that trust in the same 11 again.
Yeah, I think he likes what he's seen the last few games, and there's the old saying, if it's not broke, don't try and fix it. And this team has performed, especially in recent weeks, the last few games. Guys have been incredibly consistent. I feel like The defence has been really solid. Going forward, there's been so many goal threats. You look at the weekend and Tom James coming into the team, and what a strike that is on his left foot. But yeah, he's someone that has no weaker foot, I think, Tom James. But yeah, I think Richie, he's just he has so much trust and so much faith in all of this squad. Like everyone that comes in seems to produce, and the boys know how close they are now, and he knows he doesn't need to do anything special. He doesn't need to tinker with anything tactically, formation-wise. This team has been going out and producing, and he's got full faith in them. They'll get the job done this evening.
And on the point of the defence as well, a clean sheet would see the O's promoted. That's quite a big thing. I don't know, as a defender, I remember back in the National League season when we went up, was it 3 draws we finished the season with?
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
at this stage, how cagey has it become? And if do you think that the clean sheet's almost the goal?
Well, the good thing about this team is they're used to keeping clean sheets. That's a given. They pride themselves on not a given, but they pride themselves on it. Obviously been incredibly solid at the back this season. And I just feel like they've got the bit between their teeth. They're in the mood, and they're in a good rhythm, a good run of form, and after the result on the weekend, they'll be bouncing into tonight. Just wanting to get the game played, and hopefully still promotion.
And of course, as we said, a draw would be enough, and we'll come on to all the permutations and the different possibilities soon. But after Saturday, the likes of Kieran Sadler and Tom James, you wouldn't grudge them taking a shot from 70 yards out tonight. they were magic, and some class goals, and it looks like they're just trying to buff up that goal of the season competition.
Yeah, which is already ridiculous, that goal of the season competition, and those two on Saturday were right up there. But I mean, in terms of the quality we have across the pitch, I mean, we spoke before the game on Saturday about Moncur's ability. We focused on Ruel Sotirio and Paul Smith, and actually it was Sadler and Tom James who came up with the goals, and so realistically there is no weak link that you can see in this team, especially this team tonight. Like we said, it's consistent from Saturday going in through to today. Doesn't look like there's any knocks, but Joe will tell you this. I mean, in terms of being a footballer, whenever you do get a knock, but you've won a game 2-0 and you're on top of the league, those things just it becomes easier to play. Those injuries don't feel as bad. That tiredness doesn't feel as bad, and I'm sure they'll just be going out and hopefully putting on a real show. We know that this team is one of the most exciting teams that probably I've seen in my entire life, and if we get it over the line today, we'll be able to play with even more freedom than Richie's allowed them to play so far this season.
Well, they put a show on Saturday. Let's just take a look at some of the action there, Joe, because at this stage, the boys must be absolutely buzzing. And to take that performance on Saturday, a clean sheet, some great goals, that will feed in tonight, you feel? Yeah,
they'll be brimming with confidence. I mean, Sutton is a really difficult place to go. Played there a few times myself. Got sent off there before. But it's really difficult. They make it hard for you. They're just a really competitive side, especially one of those teams that kind of really use their home advantage and make it hard for opposition teams. But the way that they've just dealt with them, so comprehensively, limited Sutton's threat, and then just gone and scored two brilliant goals. I can't get tired of looking at this one here from TJ. It's just, I couldn't strike it that well on my left foot. That's my stronger foot, and he's just made it look so effortless. But yeah, just a really accomplished performance all round, capped off by 2 really good goals.
Probably should have had even more goals, Andrew, but I mean, just the performance in itself has stayed professional, and Richie's big on not letting complacency in, and there were no signs of that. No,
none at all, actually, and there have been times this season where a little bit of complacency has slipped in. We think about games against Harrogate and against Colchester where we let 2-goal leads slip, even in a game against Hartlepool away a few weeks back, where you think, because we kept so many clean sheets, the job's done once you get in the lead, but it hasn't been like that all of this season. But as soon as we got that 2-goal buffer on Saturday against Sutton, it felt more like a procession. Come the second half, Sutton had a couple of opportunities toward the end of the first half, but it was a real joy to watch, and every person and every man put in such a brilliant performance, and it was spectacular in the end, despite it only being 2-0. Now we're going to come on to the bits where we probably should have scored more goals, and then we shouldn't really highlight some of the misses that we ended up having, but at least we missed in front of our own fans.
And I mean, we're not there. We're not promoted just yet, despite Sky and BBC reporting it. Do you think there's a case amongst the players, they do feel so close that maybe the shackles come off a little bit now. They know that they're so close that they can just really be free and enjoy themselves. I just think there'll still be that bit of nerves there.
No, I think there'll still be a bit of nerves, just purely because, until they are mathematically, sealed as being promoted, then, there's still a job to do. But I just feel that this team is so disciplined, they're so well organised, well coached, well drilled, and so driven collectively as a group of players. There's such great characters in there. I feel like it would just be business as normal for them tonight. And, as much as, everyone's so excited about what could potentially happen, I feel like they'll just go out there and just put on a performance, and hopefully, it is, we'd like to think it's comfortable and there's plenty of goals, but, knowing this team and looking at how they've played over the course of the season, I think they will just get the job done, which is what they've done so often.
Well, it is a sold-out away end in Kent this evening with 1,700 Orient fans getting behind the boys. So unlucky if you didn't manage to get yourself a ticket. But don't forget, if you watch along live on our YouTube stream, then tonight is available to stream UK and internationally. So head over to the website that is on screen now to pick up your match streaming pass. But first, before we get to anything else, let's hear from the gaffer, Richie Wellens.
Gaffer, unchanged from your side's win at Sutton United on a weekend. Continuity key to a good result tonight?
Yeah, no, it was difficult. We got a couple of players that we could have rested, but you just think that the performance was so good that you want to continue, like you said, that continuity and the momentum that the players should have got from that, and obviously the confidence above all. So really difficult team selection, but we just thought that was the right way to go.
Since the turn of the year, Gillingham been one of the form teams and certainly not one to be underestimated.
No, listen, when you come here, it's always a difficult game. We need to make sure that the benefit we have is the fact that it's against a team that is very similar to Sutton. So we have to take a lot of the things that we've done well against Sutton into this game.
Obviously, there's a bit of uncertainty after the final whistle at Sutton, but coming here today, there's no uncertainty. If your side take care of business, and that's all we need to do.
No, listen, we don't think too far ahead. We know that what the calculations are now, even though we didn't know. You didn't know on Saturday. After the game, it was funny watching Matt Porter. You've got this mastermind brain who's very, very clever. Lose his head a little bit and wanted a little bit of space, and then obviously giving 30 seconds on his own, he come to the conclusion that obviously we need another point. So that's what we need to do. We need to make sure we come and be professional against a really good team.
Fans unbelievable on Saturday, and it's going to be, I think, just over 1,700 here tonight, and they make their voice heard from the beginning and make a real difference.
Yeah, no, it was a massive part of what we achieved on Saturday. That was a big part of our good performance. So if they can find the voices again, we've got only 5 games left. Let's put everything into it and let's get what we want.
Awesome, thank you. Good luck tonight. See you later. In a bit.
It's always great hearing from that man, and I mean, how much credit does he deserve for what could happen tonight?
Oh, well, a huge amount of credit. From top down as well, from Nigel and Kent bringing in Richie Wellens, the second half of last season. And him looking at the club and realising that it wasn't just a flash in a pan type thing. There was a project there to be built, owners there that he could trust, and also players that had ability that were not playing to their full potential. And he's managed to unlock that, and he deserves so much credit for what he's been able to mould into this team, which is a team that was languishing really at the end of last season. I know he picked them up towards the end of last season, but in January, February 2022, we were nowhere, and we were so close to going back down to the National League really. So it's really because of him. We've made some really, really good signings, of course, but those signings have been made with his systems in mind, with him, being able to bring them into a system that he wants, and also we've added to the team throughout this season. We think about Dan Happy with his unfortunate injury, losing his place, and Ed Turns being brought in January. Similarly, Kieran Sadlier as well. So those sort of things happen because everyone's working all together. Richie is, a real fulcrum in that, but it's not just him. It's Martin Ling, it's Nigel, and it's Kent, who are all pulling together in the right direction to take this club forward. And
when you talk about Richie Wellens and the football that his sides play, you think of silky, free-flowing attacking football. And I mean, we've seen some of that, especially at Salford and Sutton last Saturday, and tonight you hope it will be the same with. Andrew mentioned the players that he's managed to unlock, and you only have to look at Paul Smith and his form, Ruel Sotirio in recent weeks. Sadly, it's coming recently, and George Moncur. That front four is changed a bit. You almost forget that you've got Theo Archibald sat on the injury bed.
Yeah, I think like Andrew said, you have to give you have to give Richie enormous credit because he's the club's transformed. Since he took over just over a year ago. I think for me, if I'm looking at most of the squad that was playing last season compared to how they performed this season, the standards and the performance levels have come on hugely. So him and the coaching staff, definitely deserve massive credit for that. They've obviously recruited really well, brought in some good players, but like Andrew said, it is, as much as, Richie deserves huge credit, it is, a team effort from the likes of Martin Ling, the owners backing him, and also the players buying into his methods because, he's clearly got an identity and a philosophy of how he wants the game to be played, and the players have all bought in on that, and, I think they enjoy his style of football for a start, and they see that it wins games and it brings results, and, as a footballer, if you're winning games and your team's performing, you're going to buy into it and you're going to be convinced.
And as fantastic as that football has been, we haven't scored more than 2 goals since the 3rd of December against Bradford. You'd love to see some goals. Obviously, we've scored some fantastic goals and we win games comfortably, but do you expect goals tonight?
I'm hopeful of goals, yeah. But I just think, whether we see, a ton of goals or not, I think you have to be so impressed by the fact that this team, they create chances, they do play really attractive football that's easy on the eye, but then they're so disciplined and resilient at the back. And, to marry the two, plus, a really competitive midfield that has, industry and good passing ability. And, I think that the combination of all the units, from front to back is just really impressive. And that's why this team is on where they are on the brink of promotion, and they've played so well.
And let's get down to business then, Andrew. What are the different outcomes tonight? Win, lose or draw, we can go up?
Yeah. I don't know if we've got a graphic available which explains it sort of in an easier way. But any point for us does the job. A win obviously will do the job for us as well. But then even if we lose, if Bradford or Northampton drop any points elsewhere, so if they don't win, then we're also up. So I hope that's correct, because on Saturday we were unsure about what the different permutations are. But I think it's one of those things where, you want to kind of do the job in style. It obviously won't matter at one jot if we go and lose to Gillingham tonight, and then you see elsewhere that Bradford or Northampton have lost or dropped points. But it's always nice to kind of do it in style. But that is the permutations as it stands. We're in an incredibly advantageous position. As you said, there were certain broadcasters who are already putting out their graphics saying that the club has already been promoted, but we are pretty much 99.9% of the way there.
And if we win and Stevenage drop points, the title party is tonight.
The title party is tonight. I expect the open top bus to be going down Leyton High Road at about 11 p.m. though. It will be that'll be us confirmed as champions, and that'll be the first time in over 50 years, which is in the league. That is, sorry, Joe. I mean, which will be an enormous achievement, because off the back of that amazing National League Champions triumph, which was an intensely fought campaign, to do it only a few years later and get back to League One, which let's be honest, we are a League One club, would be brilliant to see, and also to do it as champions. For the last few weeks, Holly, we've been saying, promotion, I just want promotion, and now that the gap's got bigger and bigger throughout the weeks, I'd like to be champions now, I think.
Well, let's calm down and focus on the game in hand, because I think we are getting a little bit carried away with ourselves, but I mean, who can blame us? So there is someone standing in our way. Well, maybe not. It doesn't actually matter too much, but there is a team that we need to play this evening for anything to happen. So let's take a look and see how the home side are lining up this evening. In goal for Gillingham is number 1, Glenn Morris. We have number 2, Shay Alexander. Number 23, Connor Masterson. Number 5, Max Amer. 14, Robbie McKenzie. The captain, number 6, Sean Williams. Number 38, Timothy Dieng. Number 16, Dom Jeffries. Number 7, Alex McDonald. Number 49, George Lapsley. Number 20, Tom Nichols. And on the bench for Gillingham is Turner, Wright, Tutonda, Coleman, Clark and Hawkins. So there is how the home side are lining up this evening, and they had a torrid first half to the season, Joe. I think scoring 6 goals in 25 games or something absolutely mental, but new owners in January. They've brought in a lot of quality, and they're a very different side to the one we beat comfortably back in the first half of last season.
Yeah, they certainly are a much changed outfit. As you said, really, really poor first half of the season. And they've obviously, a change of ownership and realised they had to do something drastic because they were probably slipping out of the league by the looks of it. And they've come in, definitely invested quite a lot of money, brought in some real experienced league campaigners there. You look at their lineup and there's a lot of Football League experience there. And they've really managed to turn their fortunes around, and drag themselves out of the mire a little bit. And, now they're playing some decent stuff, quite direct at times, but certainly got some good players in their team, yeah.
Relegation is still a possibility for them, but I think any point tonight makes them safe.
Yeah, pretty much. And Gillingham will they've got their own their own outlook to make sure that they need to get over their own line. So they certainly won't make it easy for us at all. They've shown that throughout the second half of the season. They've actually been very, very good. Joe talks about their style of play is quite direct. A couple of Gillingham fans that I know say that pretty much the only reservation they have now is their style of play, but at least they've dragged themselves up, and that's pretty much the way that you get further up this table when you're right in the mire, is just churning out results. They've had some massive wins. They beat Carlisle. They should have beat Stockport at the weekend, but they've brought in good players at the time that they needed to. So they are a totally different team to the one that we comprehensively beat 2-0 earlier in the season. And also they might have in the back of the mind that Rotherham got promoted at their place last season, and Gillingham also got relegated at the same time, and it was an incredibly fraught affair over at Priestfield. So they might still have in the back of the mind that they owe someone something for the fact that on the day that they got relegated, someone else got promoted. So they will not make it easy in any way whatsoever. They've been much more improved in the second half of the season, and yeah, it will be totally different from when we beat them earlier in the season.
You've got to give some credit of their improvement to some of the names they've signed. I mean, Tom Nichols and Timothy Dieng are two big names for them to bring in, and they'll probably be looking to build for next season as well with some of the recruitment they've been doing, and we shouldn't take tonight lightly.
No, not at all. I'm sure they would have had half an eye on next season with some of the players that they signed, and obviously first looking to secure their league status, and then I'm sure they'll be looking to kick on and try and have a real promotion push themselves next season. But obviously Gillingham Orient is still fairly, I wouldn't say a derby, but it will certainly be competitive, and I'm sure Gillingham and their fans and players won't want to see an Orient promotion party at their place tonight. So they'll have that pride, and like Andrew said, they've got a job to do themselves to ensure their own safety. So yeah, it will definitely be competitive, real tough test, I'm sure. But a lot to play for both teams. They've
had some good results in recent weeks. They've beat Carlisle and drawn against Stockport, two teams in and around. If we have a look at some of their play, then they're not a bad side despite their league positioning.
No, and Carlisle and Stockport are right up there. Stockport for me are one of the teams that probably deserve to be in the top three towards the end of the season, and so getting being actually held by Stockport in this game is shows kind of how good Gillingham have been. I know Carlisle, we know this because we beat them 1-0. Despite that being a tricky game, Carlisle have found it quite tricky of late. But this game against Stockport at the weekend, where they led 1-0 for the vast majority of the game, and then got pegged back by Stockport, kind of shows that their position in the table is probably a false position. You mentioned the fact that they only scored 6 goals in the opening half of the season. I mean, that's abysmal form. So to turn it around in the manner that they've done shows that they are certainly a team on the up. If they'd had this team, if they'd had this ownership for most of the season, then it probably would have been a different story. But we'll see how it goes tonight. Well,
there's certainly going to be excitement building, and that away end that we can see there, I mean, probably the worst away end in the English league, probably down to the Isthmian South, but that is going to be packed and absolutely bouncing tonight, and we'll be looking to stuff with them. But those boys behind the goal, Joe, they'll be spurring them on as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a carnival atmosphere behind there. you know, hopefully there's no rain because they could get very wet and they're a bit exposed there. But you know, the Orient fans are travelling in really good numbers tonight. You know, and expecting their team to get the job done. So you know, I'm sure they'll be right up for it, making a lot of noise and really pushing the boys on.
The home end not as full as what we expect the away end to be. I'm sure we'll see that in just a moment, but we'll run through the starting lineup very quickly for you before we head over for kickoff. And in goal this evening, after breaking the record for clean sheets for the club, is number 22 Lawrence Vigoury. We have the unchanged back four of 32 Rob Hunt, 19 Omar Beckles, 43 Ed Turns, and number 2 Tom James. We have the 2 in midfield of the captain, number 18 Darren Pratley, and 15 Idris El Mazouni. And that fluid attacking front four looking to get in and amongst the goals tonight is 34 Kieran Sadlier, 14 George Moncur, 7 Paul Smith, and through the middle, number 10 Ruel Sotiriou. You can almost taste League One, Andrew. You can smell it. You can smell it in the air, and that's even here.
What's it taste of, Ollie?
You put me on the spot on that one. But are you nervous? Are you excited? What way is this one going, Andrew?
No, I'm excited. I have to say, you know, we've been in a similar position a few years back, and Joe obviously played in that game. That day, I was nervous because, man, there was still a lot to play for. Salford were breathing down our necks, and it was, in the end, it was, you know, we did the job and we did it fantastically. You know, tonight is a night of excitement. We've still got a bit of credit in the bank, let's say. So yeah, I'm excited for this one.
Everyone's remembering back a little bit to 2019, Joe, and that special time, and these boys are walking out. Obviously, Justin was such a key part to that. Richie's continuing that work. What would Richie's message be to these boys tonight?
I'm sure it would just be just go and do what you have been doing all season long. You know, show how good you are. You know, express yourself, play your football, and go out and get the result that you need. You know, Richie doesn't like to take much of the limelight himself. You know, he makes it all about the players, and you know, rightly so, because they've been outstanding. So I'm sure it'll be a very simple message for him. You know, business as usual. You know, we've not done anything just yet. Let's get the job done.
Well, the boys are out. They are ready, and so are we, and so should you be too. It's time for kickoff. So let's hand over to our commentary team of Dave Victor and Matt Hiscott.
Good evening and welcome to North Kent. I don't know about you, but I didn't sleep well last night.